Hey guys. Yeah, I'm recording. Hey guys. Welcome back to the SMA channel. We are here for part 6 of Nagisa the Sharingan. And what time is it? It's that. And I just uploaded part 4 earlier today. Okay, so after Nagisa and the girls get back after he teleports back to the room, he walks out, greets Koro Sensei, and says, I got the girls back to the room and I took care of the thugs. He says, wait, how did you get back here? Slightly shocked, he says, I came in through the window in case they had more and they knew where we were going. They had one of our itineraries on them. They must have got it when we were on the train. Corsante says, I see. And he says, okay, well, we all picked out our food for the evening, so you can go ahead to the mess hall. He gets his food, and then it's around time for them to start getting ready for bed. They're in the room, and one of the boys brings up who Nagisa would date in the classroom. They all look over to Nagisa with a face of tell us, gossip. Nagisa then says, with Karma looking at him in the room, he says, if I had to pick a girl, it'd probably be them all of them. I wouldn't be able to differ from one personality. I like hanging out with them all. So I wouldn't be able to pick one. If I had to go with one, I'd have to go with all of them. The boy's just jaw drops and says, his dating preferred is harem. They look at him and they start chasing him. That's not an option. As they all look over to see Koro Sensei jotting this down. Nagisa looks over and says, do you want to die? He kinda slouches down with his pink face, and then Mach 20s away. No, the boys all start laughing as they sit back down. Now, to the girls. The blonde-haired one brings up how they should talk about boys, and all that, and they get to the subject of Nagisa, and for some reason, every girl is saying that they would gladly date him. And Miss Yelovich is there saying, oh, that one? He's not bad. They all look over like, world-class assassin with a world-class body. Junior high. They just realized that Nagisa was hella up there on the, per standards, and yeah. They see Koro Sensei in the door just listening in. They all start chasing after him. Yeah. That's how that night goes. And God. Okay, so yeah, then Nagisa and Kayane see each other in the hallway, and they're just talking, saying, well, I guess this is where our trip ends. I guess tomorrow's where our trip ends. And they all go to sleep and wake up the next day. Now, I'm gonna pause this recording after I get to the transition. So, they're all walking into class the next day, back where they live, and they're talking about how there's a new transfer student today. And I'll be back when I finish this next episode. Okay, we're back. Now, I left off with them showing up at the classroom. Now, as they're walking in, one of the kids mentions that new students has arrived. They show him a picture, and it's a young girl. Nagisa mentions that the girls asked him if he could water the flowers earlier that day, and he has to do that. The rest of the kids walk in to see the giant box. It turns on, and it's the girl. She starts analyzing the room and doing the calculations, and she says that the chances of her completing the assassination before graduation are in the high 90%. Now, as this happens, Nagisa had finished watering the flowers, and it opens the door. Now, she analyzes him, realizes that he's the doll face, and then she recalculates. Chances of Koro Sensei being assassinated by individual Nagisa Shioto, 100%. Need of autonomous fixed artillery unit, and regardless. The rest of the class jaw dropped. The living killing machine just confirmed that Nagisa's chances of killing Koro Sensei by the end of the year are 100. Now he sits down nonchalantly as class begins, and the entire day she hailed the bullets at Koro Sensei. She redid her calculations, and nothing changed. Nagisa's chances of killing Koro Sensei before her are 100%. Now, because of how disrupted she was, the next day, one of the students taped her gun shut. The kids got some work in, and autonomous fixed artillery unit had to contact her creators to remove her restraints. But during that conversation, Koro Sensei showed up, and Koro Sensei showed up and gave her some upgrades on how to cooperate with students and overall assassination equipment. The next day, she is happy-go-lucky, has a full body LED scan, and is being a new normal student. She makes friends with a good couple of the kids. Some of the boys are reluctant, including the one that taped her up. And class goes off without a hitch. Now that night, her creator showed up, and they were baffled that Koro Sensei would even try to do this. So they open up her hatch and start fiddling with wires. Now, Nagisa that day left his phone in his desk. So he goes back that night and sees them messing with the autonomous artillery with the newly named Ritsu. Now, as this is happening, Nagisa walks in and says, "What are you doing to my classmate?" The scientist looks over and says, "None of your business, boy. Leave now." Nagisa says, "Ritsu, can you give them the data you collected from today?" "Okay, Nagisa," she says. "Probability of Unit Ritsu terminating target Koro Sensei before Nagisa Shioto is 0%. Chances of Nagisa Shioto eliminating Koro Sensei by March, 100%. The scientists look over and say, "Ritsu, fixed autonomous artillery unit. What is ID of Nagisa Shioto?" She replies, "Red eyes." They look over and say, "This boy is the red-eyes dollface." He says, "Now, I would kindly appreciate it if you didn't touch my classmate." The scientists get up and leave the room. Nagisa spends that night putting her back together and leaves. The next day, she appears as her autonomous form with red eyes instead of blue ones. The entire class is like, "Man, the scientist came last night and did this to her." And then Nagisa's not saying anything, wanting them to be surprised. And flowers pop out. She says, Nagisa here helped me out last night. He must have forgot. He forgot his phone, so he came out and helped me. They all look over Nagisa and say, "Good job," and they all get back to class. Now, a lot of these episodes are filler, so I have to. There's not really much I can do for storyline, so I'm gonna pause it here and be back with the next episode. Okay, so class ends and they go home, come back to school the next day. Now let's say it's their lunch period, and Kora Sensei, Miss Yelovich, and Karasuma are talking in the faculty room, and Kora Sensei is goggling Miss Yelovich's breasts, and she's complaining about it and throwing jabs at him until she eventually walks out of the room. Now, as she walks out of the room, she's still complaining, and she's caught in a snare trap by her old assassination teacher. He cuts her down after saying that she's gotten rusty. And then Karasuma walks out and asks who he is. He soon realizes that this is one of the most prestigious assassins in the world. And then then Miss Yelovich's teacher says that she is no longer needed here. And then she starts complaining about how she's being undermined, and that this is her place, and that he is her target. Then Kora Sensei arrives and says that her teacher is half right. She is needed here as the English teacher because of how fluent she is, and she is a vital part of the student's learning. But she is, after blowing your cover, fairly useless as an assassin. So they get the task to kill Karasuma for the end of the day. And whoever wins is their assassin. Now, they both take the task, and in the end, Irina wins and is applauded by her teacher. And after that, Nagisa walks over to her teacher and says, "So, you're Miss Yelovich's teacher. You must have been pretty good back in your day." He looks at him and says, "Ah, I've seen your file. Very orchestrated and over more than 6 martial arts, but no real assassination training. You're a smart one, Improv. You have a good chance of taking the octopus. You're a smart one. I would say you have a good chance." And then he walks away. He then says, "So, Irina, are we ever gonna get back to that one of the private sessions? The seduction teaching he wanted to know?" She blushes slightly, realizing that her seduction techniques have no effect on him still. She says, "Oh, sure, brat." And later that day, she tried her hardest to seduce Nagisa and failed. Then he said, "My turn. You can give me some pointers on how well I did afterwards." She says, "Okay." As they begin class. After class, Nagisa walks into the faculty room. Miss Irina's the only one there. Let's say the curtains were down because it was a pretty hot day. And as she says, "Oh, hey Nagisa, I'm assuming this is your first attempt." He walks over, sits down next to her in a chair, and then kisses her. Full tongue, all of it. She's blushing, wondering what the fuck's happening. As she says, "You're way too cute to be a teacher." Okay, and let's say that class was just heading out and it's PE time, so most of the kids are in the schoolyard. He picks her up princess style, she's still blushing, walks her into the back of the shed and says, "So, what's a cutie? Why is a cutie like you here other than why is a cutie like you still here?" She's like, and then she realizes, oh shit, this is a seduction attempt, and breaks out of it. He then says, "Oh, you got me." And then he asks, "So, any pointers if you didn't already know this was a test?" She then says, "No, you had fairly good technique. You sweet talked me, and for some reason we're here now, in a secluded place where if I didn't know any better, da 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 would go on." He then rubs the back of his head and says, "So what you're saying is I got this down way too fast." She then says, "Yeah, you definitely did." He then walks over to her, gives her a peck on the forehead, and says, "Well, I can't say I didn't enjoy this." He walks out. She's blushing, and in her head she's thinking, the fuck just happened? She's just sitting there paused. Yeah. And Nagisa then leaves and goes out to PE class. The next day, Nagisa and Karma, after class, asked if Koro-sensei could take them to the new Sonic Ninja movie. No, let's say Karma asks, and Nagisa says he doesn't want to go because he prefers to see it in his own country. Because Hawaii is where this film is being shown, and Hawaii is technically part of the United States. So, Nagisa stays, Karma goes. And during that day, Nagisa pretty much just helped out his classmates in tutoring and most of that. And he was called in by the mob boss. He was called in for a mission. This was an assassination. He would be paid $500,000, yeah, to take out. Who should I make the target? He would be paid $500,000 to take out. What's the right target? Let's say it's a doctor and he's researching dark matter and how it has the effect on animal cells. When the mob requests this, he remembers that the President of the United States said that the reason Koro-sensei will blow up the Earth is because he was crammed full of dark matter, and it's highly explosive and it will blow up. He then says, "Deal." And that night, with his knife, he went to the hospital and down to the basement. As he enters, he's killed 15 guards. And let's say, because he wants his identity to be very secret and he's known as the Dollface, he wears a red dress. Don't question it. He's been known for cross-dressing in this What If. So yeah. And plus, he's gotten used to wearing girl clothes due to his mother's beliefs. So he wears a red dress, and he's killed 15 guards and 7 scientists. He's been told that there are 9 scientists in the building and over 20 guards. So as he's down to the 18th level, he sees a wide open field and a large black ball. It seems to be liquid, but it's radiating pure energy. Now, as he's looking at it, he's wondering what the fuck this is. Now, he's looking at this as it starts to shrink into one point. Now, he sees a doctor that is funneling this into an animal. He walks over, slits the doctor's throat, and then checks his ID. This was his target. Now he looks up on the animal, and now the entire giant ball of dark matter is gone. Now he looks over at the animal and sees it's mutating. And it's become a giant fox with 9 tails. Now, back up. Now, I'm going to say that the dark matter used in this was contaminated, and it was technically a Biju bomb. This was just put into a fox. It gained 9 tails and the ability to be an ascendant creature. After seeing this, he quickly activated his sharingan and used what he called what he called seal of the Raijin seal. Yeah, Raijin seal. He threw 8 different kunai to make a pentagram shape and said flying Raijin. He split his cells into 8 parts and sealed the 9 tails within him. Now, doing this gave him an immense stamina boost, strength boost, and reaction time boost. But the 3rd ring around his eye has appeared. Now, because of this, he is very unstable, and his Mangekyo form could emerge at any moment. Now, he realizes he probably just saved like 100,000 people because this beast was getting big. It was still growing when he sealed it. And he feels a small ache in his heart as this happens, and he falls on one knee. He quickly teleports back to the boss and throws him the bloody name tag and says, "Here." He stands up, and I clicked nothing's wrong. The boss applauds him and says, "Here you go," as he hands him the money, and Nagisa puts it with the rest of his cash in his house. Now Karma knocks on his door and starts telling him about the movie. He says, "Oh, I might have gone then, but I still prefer to see it in Japan. Who knows what they cut from the original film?" "Yeah, you're right. But I gotta say, it was a pretty good movie." He says, "Yeah, I could see why." And then he pulls out around 500, cash. It says, "Here, you should give this to Kuro Sensei. Tell him this is for your ticket." Karma says, "I can't take that from you. It's your money, and that's a lot of money." He says, "Nah, you know what my job is, and I had work today." Karma looks at him and says, "But there wasn't a bank robbery on TV today." He says, "We are assassins." He says, "Oh, well, damn." Well, he takes the money and then leaves and says, "Well, thanks anyway. I'm glad we became friends." Karma goes in for a kiss and says, and Nagisa backs up and says, I'm not ready for that. He says, "Okay," hugs him, and leaves. And that's where I'm going to end this episode. No, I mean, I have to pause this and watch the next episode. So, be back. Okay, we're on to the next day. So, Nagisa, Karma, and the rest of the students appear in class, and they are informed that there will be a new transfer student. Now, as Kuro Sensei is going over this, a man in white clothes and a white hood walks in, and they all assume that he's the new transfer student, but he's very tall. He makes a dove appear in his hand and says, "Hello, everybody. I am not your new classmate. I am just his guardian." Ritsu then, and now flashback. Beforehand, Ritsu had mentioned that they were meant to be a tag team, and that her skills paled in comparison to his. This put Nagisa on edge, and when they look over to see his reaction to the man's magic trick, he used the liquid eyes move and is now hiding in the corner. Now, they are all shocked that he was this scared by it, and then the man in the white hood says, "Come on in," and I forget his name, the new transfer student, breaks the wall and sits in his desk, talking about how he's the strongest, as he looks over to Nagisa. He then walks over, pats his head, and says, "It's okay, I won't kill you. I don't kill things that are weaker than me." Nagisa's eyes are the sharingan, and the three tomoe with the lines going all around it are there. He then says, "What makes you think you're stronger than me?" The red eyes throw him off a bit, and and then his guardian says, "Sit down." The guardian's thinking, why is he here if he's here? He should have died a long time ago if the doll face was around. Now, if you're wondering why Koro-sensei isn't dead yet, it's because Nagisa sees Koro-sensei as one of the greatest teachers that this classroom could have. And if he's around, he'll bring up everybody's grades and turn them into some people that are above the average. And he admires Koro-sensei for this. That is the reason why Koro-sensei isn't dead. And now the new transfer student says to Koro-sensei, "Well, brother, I'd like to have a match with you after class, brother." The entire class screams out, "What?" as he leaves the room. They all start questioning Koro-sensei, and now cut to the end of the day. As Koro-sensei walks into the desk-shaped ring, Nagisa grabs his shoulder and says, if he can't beat me, he can't beat you," as he walks in Koro-sensei's stead. Now, as he walks in, he says, "Ah, the weakling. I don't see why I'm fighting you. You won't be able to hurt me." He says, "Oh, really? Well, if you can hurt me, then it's pretty fairly certain that you can kill Koro-sensei. So I figured I'd be a fairly decent match for your startup." He then says, "Okay then, but I warned you." Nagisa then says, "So would you like this to be a duel to the death?" The guardian then says, "No. First one to either leave the ring or be incapacitated loses." He says, "Okay then. I must add though, if you attack any one of my fellow classmates or Koro-sensei while we are fighting or after then I will be forced to incapacitate you and keep you that way." Now, the transfer student, I forget his name, that's why I'm not saying it, is kind of pissed right now, as he says, "Fine," and they begin to fight. So right off the bat, Nagisa feels a cut on his arm. It's the tentacles. Now, when this is happening, he smiles a bit and says, "Knew it." And as this happens, the tentacle that cut Nagisa's arm explodes. He turned his blood into a substance that is anti-Koro-sensei, which means it's anti-tentacle. He then says, "I don't know if you didn't know this, but I'm not like these other students. I have experience. I was chosen for this. So I'm going to tell you this now. Your target is Koro-sensei. You will not disrupt our class, and you will not be your egotistic little prick." He's really mad at this and keeps attacking him. Every time he lands a blow, his tentacles explode. As he's regenerating, he keeps losing stamina. His eyes go slit, and instead of being natural cold blue, instead of being their regular his eyes go slit instead of being the sharingan, and the tomoes disappear for a moment. As his aura is visibly shown, and he goes into nine tails. He feels his heart ache as he falls to the ground on his knees. Koro Sensei is visibly worried along with other classmates, and as he's grasping at his heart, he's thinking, damn, this really sucks. Now I know what Koro Sensei's in for. Because, flashback, Nagisa sealed the nine tails inside of himself, and it was with using a Raijin seal. He divided his own body into different parts, and he sealed the nine tails within him. The nine tails is a fox that was stuffed with antimatter, but it was a special antimatter. It was an antimatter from an entirely different universe that was left in space. It was a Biju bomb. Now that chakra formed the nine tails. And now he's grasping at his heart, thinking, damn it. As the transfer student says, so my attacks did have an effect. You were just acting tough. He then stands back up, grabs him by his neck. He then stands up, Nagisa does, grabs the transfer student by his neck, and says, I wasn't acting tough. I was completely serious. As he tries to cut off his arm, he gets one scratch in as his tentacles explode. He then throws him outside of the classroom, breaking through the wall and saying, don't be a dick, you egotistic son of a bitch. Now, the transfer student now realizes that Nagisa is stronger than him, and says to himself, no, I'm the strongest. These tentacles ensure that. As he starts going berserk, Nagisa then says, fine, and then as he opens his eyes wide as the tomes reappear, and he says in his head, Genjutsu. And he is immediately incapacitated. Now he is in his head fighting himself over and over again, having no repercussions on his physical body, just his mind. He then says to the guardian, take him, and try to teach him how to be less of a prick while you're at it. He picks him up and takes him out, and wonders why Koro Sensei isn't dead. The whole class questions Nagisa on why it is that he fell to his knees in that fight. Is he badly wounded? They try to examine him, and as he swats them away and says, I'll be fine. No, he's not wanting them to see his scars. He says, hey Karma, do you mind coming to the shed and patching me up? Koro Sensei, you can come if you want, but you might want to teach class for a bit. Karma says, sure. As Koro Sensei says, thank you, Nagisa. I'm happy you would assist me in that endeavor, and I'm surprised you're strong enough to take on someone with tentacles in a physical one-on-one fight. He then says, well, due to my eye disease, my blood type is different from everyone else's in this room, which makes it a more rare liquid on this earth. And due to that, I actually had, with a blend of doctors, they put some anti-me nanites inside of me, and it repelled the tentacles from slashes. It was meant to be a certain weapon, but it failed in the end, and they were irremovable. This is entirely bullshit. Because he's just trying to keep his ability to change his liquids, his physical own liquids, into venom. So Karma goes out to the shed and patches him up and asks, why'd you fall to the knees and hold your heart? Your disease is an eye one. He then says that he was in charge to assassinate a doctor who was working with antimatter. I had to use my abilities to seal the animal he was putting an entirely giant amount of antimatter into inside my body. And I can hear it. It's a sentient being now. Now, Karma looks over to him and says, "What? That's impossible. Antimatter shouldn't be able to give anybody that kind of gift." He then says, "Well, it did. And I'm afraid that it's kind of pissed. So, it's sealed in my heart, and it hurts all the time. It's worse than one of my mom's sessions. And it's constantly making me angry. It's influencing my mind." Karma says, "Well, you have to get it out." Nagisa says, "No, if it's out, it's gonna kill thousands. I can feel its rage. It makes me want to kill. And I have a feeling if that kid would have stayed any longer, I would have killed him." Karma patches him up and says, "Well, take it easy from now on. All that rage may influence a change. And you already know that you only have one ring left before it starts getting into its highly contagious state." He then says, "Actually, right away, I was affected by it, and I lost control. I ended up killing every guard and doctor in that building before I calmed down. And I lost a ring." Karma then says, "What? You lost one? You do know you're at your final stage. If you take any more emotional damage, you will go blind." He then says, I know. But I can't just sit around all day. You know why?" He then says, "Yeah, I know. Just being alive isn't a way to live." He says, "Yeah, so keep this a secret?" Karma then says, "Yeah." As he patches him up and goes into Core Sensei, and they continue class. Gotta pause it so I can finish a couple more episodes. I'm ending the episode here, guys. Sorry. But I have things outside and background noise for me to continue. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.